I don't know Shrek very well. I know there's a donkey. Hi, I'm Julien. I'm a musician from Brussels, and I also run a small label, Etiquette Records, and this is the Juiciest interview.
Your first EP came out recently. It's called The Impeccable Story of Prince Quarter. And I was really curious about the name.
Yeah, the idea came a bit randomly. The first reference is a reference to basketball, to a basketball player who's called Vince Carter. Came a bit randomly, but it's a player that I really enjoyed watching when I was smaller and when I was just starting basketball. So he's like a bit my idol for my starting days when I started to play basketball. He also had a very long career, and he played until like 1 or 2 seasons ago, I think. That idea that I really wanted to refer to, like, to the longevity of this player, and it kind of gave me the idea or the hope. There's still a very long way ahead. Sometimes I tend to be negative about things, and that, like, I think like, okay, I'm already 30 and I'm not gonna be a good basketball player. It's too late. And this idea of this player that's a symbol for hope on the long term, I kind of like that. Something that I wanted to do is maybe have some sort of reference to some sort of title of, you know, like a king or prince. It's just cool, I like it. And one of my favorite artists is King Cruel as well. And I thought it was a nice reference to consider myself as a small prince. I discussed it also with some of the people that I made this EP with, because it's an EP under my name, but I didn't do it alone. I do it with quite a lot of people, and everyone kind of liked it without really knowing why.
What was your headspace when writing this album? Because the lyrics are very introspective, I would say, thinking and reflecting on your own behavior.
It's hard to say, because eventually if you take really all 6 songs, a very long span of time in which I wrote it, because 6 or 7 years I think I've made music essentially with my band, Jakomo. I've never really stopped making music on the side or doing other stuff as well. I think some of the songs, like the last song of the EP, which is very different from when I started writing it, but I think it's a song that the idea of the chords, the chord progression and stuff, I think I wrote it like 10 years ago. It's a song that like has really grown with me. My point is that my headspace has been through very different states, I think. And in the same time, I think maybe the red line, that there's always this notion of a bit dreaming about a life that I'm not living. I've always had this tendency of like being a bit nostalgic about the past or dreaming about the future and not really in the present moment. The EP that I made is kind of the result of this reflection on this period of my life. I've been through very different headspaces, I would say, as well. What I wanted to do is also like unite those different vibes.
So it's like a mashup of your 20s.
Yeah, you could call it like that. Also there's like the big question of what do I want to do with my life, which is probably a question that a lot of us ask themselves.
You mentioned your band, Jakomo. How is it writing and releasing for yourself instead of for a band?
The main challenge with this project for me was to do something on my own and do it fully. I made a lot of music on my own whilst doing Jakomo or before Jakomo, but I always felt like I didn't have the confidence to do something on my own, and that I always needed other people around me to not only to make the music but also to have the confidence to put it out. Putting something out together with my best friends, it always felt kind of safe, because either way, even if it wouldn't work or if nobody would listen to it, it would still be something that we made together, and that felt comfortable and warm, and that I'm just happy to do and share with my friends. Even though I ended up working with a lot of good friends as well, and in the end I think I found a lot of similarities with Jakomo as well. The moment that I decided I want to put out music of my own was a bit the moment that I wanted to kind of make a statement for myself, like, okay, I'm 30 now and I feel confident that I can put something out that I'm kind of happy with, and there's no way back after it. That's maybe the main thing. I didn't want to have a way back.
And how does it feel now that you've performed these songs?
I had one rule, and it's fun only, and I don't want to do anything that I don't want to do. But I wanted to allow myself to be lazy on some aspects, but not lazy on the music thing. And I think that turned out quite well because I had a great evening with beautiful people, with my friends, and I was very happy that I think everyone who was involved on stage and also in the audience, I think everyone had a good evening.
Something that I admired a lot about your performance was actually that you were very thankful to all the people that were on stage, really talented musicians that were on stage with you. So what is to you the importance of creating a sort of community with other artists?
It relates to just the reason why I started to make music, I think. I've always been in a musical environment, and like my parents used to listen to a lot of music, go to a lot of concerts, and so but the reason why I wanted to kind of take part of this music thing is because I think it's really, in the purest sense, a way of connecting with other people, the easiest way. I think music allowed me to open up to the world a bit more. It might be a bit paradoxical with the fact that it's my first solo EP. I think it's a bit weird to give your own name to something that you didn't do yourself. The idea is that I'm kind of the organizer and I invite the people, like you could say like a birthday party, like party in your name, but in the end, if you would do the party alone, it would be a bit sad thing. What I really like about music is making stories or making albums. Even more so, I like the physical aspect of music, and I think I really want to invest in physical music, vinyl, cassettes, maybe CDs, or I can come to the conclusion that I don't really like the way how we've all or most of us have been consuming music. It's all been very digitalized, algorithmicalized. Something in me wants to dig deeper into long stories, and I think like listening an album of someone is in a way to get to know the musician behind it or the musicians behind it. The smartphone, it is really easy. And I think it's also like a very good tool to discover music and stuff. What I hope is that the music lover will find the energy to take time to really listen to music. And when we are at home or a place where we feel safe and not necessarily the subway or on the road to somewhere accompanied by music, but when we're just self-meditating moments, we'll be able to take more time to put a record on, or even if it's digital, but just like listen to an album and try to go along with the story. And that music can be the main thing. You can just sit in your couch or on your chair and listen to music and do nothing else.
Do you have a vinyl that gets you into that meditative space?
It might be 6 Feet Beneath the Moon from King Cool, because it's also like a period in my life that I started buying vinyl. So I think it's one of the first records that I had maybe 5 vinyls at the time. So maybe symbolically I would say that one, but that's the beautiful thing about it. I think you don't necessarily need to be a great fan of some artist to dig deep into an album. Maybe we don't do that enough.
In a way, going back to the story of your own EP, I wanted to ask about some of the lyrics. There's a song, NYDN. How do you pronounce it?
Yeah, not YDN. I realized when we were playing it with the band that I can't pronounce it neither. We used to call it Interruption because we say that word in the song. And then I changed the title to NYDN, which means Not Yet Diagnosed Nervous. It started a bit like, often a bit egocentrically, about how the feeling of how I stand in society and how I experience the madness in me but also around me, and how I feel like the world is making me crazy sometimes, or am I crazy or is the world crazy? Maybe the title is a wink to how fucked up society is sometimes. It comes from a thing during World War I where doctors used to call it not yet diagnosed nervous because they didn't know what it was. All medical evidence showed that there was a real nervous condition that we call now shell shock. Because if you put a real diagnosis of something, you have to get medical aid to those people. But there were too many people that had this disease, so they decided to not diagnose it, so they didn't have to pay medical compensations to those victims. The reason why I chose it is maybe as a wink also to these sort of things that happen in our society. And also just because I think it's a quite interesting name to say, like, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I'm feeling not well.
How are you with spicy food?
Not good.
Lucky for you, this is sweet and spicy.
It's a bit spicy.
But do you like it?
But it's spicy. Yeah, I'm gonna finish it. Otherwise it's gonna melt in my... And what is it made of?
It's tamarind.
I'm not used to it, but it's nice.
I wanted to ask another lyric question, and this is really a stretch of a question. Like, I really made crazy links. But you have a song called Swamp,
Yes.
and in it you have a lyrics that says, easier said than done to stop falling in line with expectations. So you kind of do what people expect you to be or to do. And I made a link between the word swamp and this lyric, and I thought of Shrek. And I wondered if you had ever made that link.
No, I never thought about it. I don't know Shrek very well. Sorry, I know there's a donkey. Yeah.